Am I facing this way? Right, yeah, okay. I just don't want to have my back to people and Zoom. Sometimes starting over means having the opportunity to build exactly what you want or need at that moment in time and beyond. Welcome tonight, and thanks for joining us for the town hall, where we get to look at our 4 final candidates for the city manager position for Marion, which is a great place to be. So this is a really exciting time for us to get to choose a new leader, someone who can dovetail right into all of the momentum of everything we have going on. That's great and exciting in the community. And this is likely the most important decision that we as council members will get to make in our time. So it's one we don't take lightly, and it's one that, if you just give me a moment, I'd like to explain the process that got us to the point we're at now, and then we'll all pick up in progress to see them live and giving remarks. So I just want to let you know that as soon as the former city manager put in his resignation, we started right away. Obviously, we didn't know the personalities for who might apply, but we certainly wanted to make sure we put together a rock solid profile of what our ideal candidate would be. Someone who could come in here, work with our executive team, have a skill set that really met Marion's needs, as I mentioned, now and in the future. So we built a profile with a consultant, a professional who came in and worked with us. We did individual interviews with council members, executive teams, et cetera. And we built this profile. Then we had a meeting, a public meeting, and we talked about, we kind of tweaked it and made sure we were all on the same page. We built consensus, and then we hired a search firm, an executive search firm, to help us pool the nation for candidates for this position. And we had more than 40 apply. We went through a process to whittle that down to a final 12, and then we all came together in closed session because it's personnel matters and we can't talk about a lot of what we've done in detail out there. But we came together and we whittled it down then to the final 4 after going through with the consultants all of the resumes and qualifications and anecdotes and social media searches, et cetera, blah, blah, blah. We've given a lot of due diligence to this, and that's why I'm excited tonight that we're having a town hall where we can invite you in, residents, city, people joining via Zoom, thank you, city leaders, distinguished guests, and my peers, to help us and to look and welcome these candidates, to thank them for their interest in Marion, and to just hear what they have to say. And so you're joining that with us. We don't know what they're going to say. We don't know their answers. So we're all going to kind of get this feeling live. Afterwards, we have an hour of meet and greets where the candidates will be around individually, and you can ask them questions and meet them. And then tomorrow, we have interviews the entire morning. And we are meeting in, it's group interviews where we have panels of 6 to 8 people, and we have 4 blocks of those people comprised of city leadership, community leaders, residents. And so these were put together heterogeneously, will be mixed out. We'll swap through the candidates, and over several hours, we'll have a lot of questions and answers and data to look at. Candidates will be dismissed. We will all debrief that information, and then everyone leaves except for the city council. And we're left with, again, that most important task of taking all the information we heard, the impressions we get tonight, all of the data and everything we've looked at over the last few months. And hopefully tomorrow you will see smoke, proverbial smoke, coming out of the roof here at City Hall, and that we will have determined who our next leader is. But I can assure you that we all made the pledge prior to getting very deep in this process. I think when we first met with the consultants, that if we didn't find the right fit, we weren't going to pull a trigger and just hire who was the best of the 4. So please know and trust your city leaders that we have really been spending a lot of time with help from the executive team and Kirsten Fisher, our director of HR, who has shepherded us through the process. It's a lot, but it's great. It's exciting. We hope to find a great match for Marion. We welcome you tonight. And without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to our esteemed mayor, who will be the moderator for the evening. And then we'll get to the guests. So thank you so much. And let's enjoy the.
Thank you so much, Renee. Again, welcome everyone. Welcome to all of you. We welcome you to Marion. I hope you enjoyed your tours today. I'm Nick Abouassali. I have the honor of serving this community, not only as mayor, but as a member of the city council since 2013, and as a member of a really amazing team of more than 300 people who are just, I think, top-notch team who are committed to Marion's motto of reaching higher, Marion's brand of making it the best place to raise a family and grow a business. They're committed to helping people solve issues and to serve their needs. And I think that's what's driving a lot of what's going on in Marion, is that focus on people. Couldn't be more proud of our history, as well as where this city is going, the direction that it's going in. It's an exciting time for Marion. And we're excited about the potential that one of you might join us as leader of our team. So without further ado, I think we'll move on with the task this evening, which is we have some questions. Each of you will answer the same questions. And we have 8 questions that are prepared. We'll try to get through them in this hour. But before we get to the questions, I'd like to just have each of you introduce yourselves, take a minute or so to tell us what you want to about yourself. And I know your spouses are here. They're sitting towards the back. Don't worry, we're not going to ask you questions. So, but if you'd like to introduce them, feel free to do so. So we'll start with Mr. Quaker.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
My name is Aaron Quaker. I would like to first off thank the city of Marion and the council for inviting me to come and interview for this position. I think it's a fantastic opportunity. Oh, turn it on. There we go.
Yes, push the button and turn it on.
I'll start over. My name is Aaron Quaker. First of all, I'd like to thank the council and the city for inviting me to come and interview for this position. I think it's a fantastic opportunity. Second of all, I brought my most important half with me, Michelle. She's sitting in the back. I have 2 boys. One's a 20-year-old that's up in Cedar Falls, working for a construction company. I also have a son that's in the Des Moines area that's actually starting a position with the Bondurant Streets Department and works for the Iowa National Guard. A little bit of history that's not in my bio. I played football for the University of Iowa and hopefully won't be too distracted by the football game here later on today, but we'll go from there. But had 9 years of experience as a city administrator and of course law enforcement background before that. So
Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Pogi Weaver.
Thank you, Mayor Nick. First of all, I would also like to thank the community. It has been just fantastic reception today throughout the community, and really Marion is a really special place. Have visited a few times since considering this position, and as you walk around and talk to individuals in the community, they are really proud of the community that are here. That's here, and just the amenities that they provide, but just the people. We had an opportunity to get a tour of the YMCA, and I asked the tour guide, Skip is his name, what's special about Marion? What do you like about Marion? And he really just talked, it is the people and the accepting nature of this community. And so you really have a vibrant community, a very special place. You should be proud of that. So hats off to Marion. And I think whoever would be your next city manager, there's just a lot of great potential in the community. So be proud of yourselves from that perspective. My name's Mike Pogi Weaver. I have 2 decades of public service, serving communities, both as a planner, urban planner with the city of Ankeny in Stillwater, Minnesota, and then management, both as a county administrator in Swift County, Minnesota, and now city manager of Carroll, Iowa. Just really a great opportunity. My husband, Jonathan, is in the back there. We have a daughter who is 8. She's in third grade. She is just rambunctious, is all out, and as every 8-year-old is. And so we're just really excited about the opportunity that are offered here in Marion. It's just, again, thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight.
Thank you. Mr. Roder.
My name is Al Roder. I'm from Independence, Iowa, just up the road. My wife, Robin, is in the back. We have 7 wonderful children, all grown, and we're proud of each one of them for different reasons. I've been in public administration for just shy of 30 years. I do have retail management experience prior to that. So understanding the needs of people, meeting the needs of people has always been in my blood, something that's important to me. My formative years growing up were on a farm in North Dakota. This is moving south, by the way. So we enjoy the climate here. But beyond that, my focus has been and continues to be on the people that we serve. And it's a blessing to be able to serve the public and find a way to help meet those needs.
Thank you. Mr. Waller.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. I appreciate the opportunity. My wife is here. She does not like attention, but Elizabeth is in the back representing the Hawkeyes in the black and yellow. So I won't ask her that she raise her hand, but we are blessed with 2 children, Hayden, who's 13, and Emma, who's 8. She acts like she's 18, but they're wonderful. And we moved from the Chicago area about 6 years ago to the Des Moines area, where I serve as a city manager in Indianola, Iowa. We moved to Iowa. I did my undergrad in Iowa City, fell in love with the state. My wife is a native of Iowa on the east side in Dubuque area. And we moved for family, we moved for a community, we moved for quality of life. And we're blessed that we're here. We're very excited about this opportunity. I've been in local government for 20 years. I spent about 15 of those in what's known as the North Shore of the Chicago area, so along Lake Michigan. And I served in a variety of capacities, always in the city manager's office, coming up through the ranks in very diverse, different sized communities, small, medium, large, all with unique identities. But proximity to family was one of the first draws for us. And then we're 2 hours closer to my in-laws, and we're 2 hours closer to my mom and my siblings. But one of the things that really caught my attention from the public sector, the professional side, was the tagline, "Reach Higher." And that's something that my wife and I and our children try to live every day. How can we reach higher every day? How can we strive to be better, better versions of ourselves? And from the public side, when you're serving the public, raising that bar is something that's very important to me. It's been instilled in me throughout my life, professionally and personally. And that was something that was really attractive to Marion. And I will say that I'll echo the comments that my colleagues up here had shared. My wife and I had spent some time, a couple weekends here, just touring around and talking to folks, business owners, and the pride that they exhibited, the positivity that they shared about what's going on. I shared with somebody earlier today, they're walking billboards for this community, and that's wonderful. And you can sense the pride. You can see it in the projects that you're working on. And when they're talking highly about the work that's going on, that's great. And our tour was exceptional. And those that are members of the public, you should be very proud that you have such selfless people serving you. Listening to them talk about the great work that's happening is very exciting and is very admirable. So really appreciate the opportunity and look forward to the process.
Thank you. Okay, our first question, we'll start with Mr. Quaker. Tell us why you're interested in working for the city of Marion as its city manager.
Well, as working in city administration, the most important thing from my perspective is usually challenge. And as I've gone through a small community to a medium community to now what I think would be that capstone or that destination of Marion to be that community where you really want to work for and be a civil servant for the community. I feel that Marion provides a lot of opportunities for that, and as a city administrator, it's great to be able to help the community, help the community have the services that they deserve through their taxes, and provide great service for each and every one of our citizens. Providing the support to the council and giving them expert information as they need to make great decisions for the community. I think having that opportunity to just be involved in the community and growing a community like Marion is just a fantastic opportunity.
Thank you. Mr. Pogue Weaver.
Thank you. That's a great question. And I think looking back in my career, really the capstone for me so far was Ankeny, and just the opportunity there of seeing growth that Marion is seeing, and then the challenge of keeping the sense of community. And so that's what really attracted me to Marion, because here's a community that I really think has an identity that's really strong. But now as Marion faces the growth that they're doing, how do we help position the city to remain kind of that effective and efficient government in the future, really providing that good, safe community that Marion, the community of Marion expects. And so I think it's really being laser focused on keeping that small town community that we really think is vital. And so to me, it was the challenge of being able to come into an organization that I think is laser focused and remind them that as we grow, we got to keep providing quality services that the community expects. And so it's really that challenge of going into a fast growth community like Marion and really pushing that forward.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Roeder, why are you interested in working for Marion as a city manager?
Well, I think the greatest part about Marion is the consistent focus on its people. And we've heard that over and over up the road, and I've heard it again since we've started looking at the community several times today. My focus is on building collaboration with people. We get things done because we work together. We listen to our citizens, we listen to our staff, our staff, we listen to our council. And building that partnership, that collaboration is what's going to keep Marion moving forward. As fast as Marion is growing, the greatest risk that we face is really losing that touch with the people. And I think I have a skill set to bring to Marion to make sure that that collaboration not only continues, but is enhanced. And I would love to have the opportunity to share that with you and work with you as a community and continue that growth together.
Thank you. Mr. Waller, why are you interested in working for Marion as the city manager?
When we evaluate, my wife and I, when we evaluate opportunities, it boils down to two things. Does it check a professional box, and does it check a personal box? I shared earlier from a personal standpoint, family and the importance and the proximity to family. That's something that's important to us, especially as our children are getting older, and then we're watching our parents and other family members age as well. So family's always been at the center of everything we do. From a professional standpoint, I shared the reach higher. That resonates with me. That's been something that has been embedded in me from day one when I stepped foot in City Hall in Highland Park, Illinois. Excellence in execution. And that's something that Marion has exhibited throughout the research, the visits, the tour today. Even the fact that we have a town hall meeting. Something that I talk about with my team in Indianola is the 4 C's: communication, collaboration, community engagement, and customer service. And that's a system that you can see live and breathe here in Marion. When I spoke to Lon about this as an opportunity, as I was doing my due diligence, he spoke about the partnerships. He spoke about how everybody seems to be rowing in the same direction. That there's great staff. A lot of people are proud of what they're doing, and there's positivity around the stuff that's happening. That's very exciting. That's something you want to be a part of. You talk about moving momentum. I think that was a word that kept coming up, is momentum, and how do you carry that momentum forward? My background, I started in Highland Park. It was a community of 30,000. And I went to Lake Bluff, which is a community of about 6,500. I was able to diversify my background and really work in various fields: planning and zoning, HR, IT, as well as other special projects. But I've been able to lead in every organization I've been a part of. Most recently, before Indianola, I was in Lake County government, which is a completely separate beast. It's 3,500 employees, $500 million budget, covers, provides service to 703,000 residents. So as now in Indianola, it's about 16,000. It's a community about 16,000. And so when I look at the population here, that's a sweet spot for me, the 42,000. The staff, you're able to, you have a little bit more opportunity to do more exciting projects. The corridor plans that are going on, the facility upgrades, the regional efforts that we've been learning about, those are exciting. And those are something that you want to be a part of.
Thank you. Okay, we're starting with you for the next question. So get a drink of water. Here we go. All right.
I'm used to going first with the last name starting with W.
All right, Mr. Waller, how would you describe your leadership style and philosophy in the city manager role?
It's one of empowerment. You know, the people, it's all about people. I love people. Public service is a passion of mine. And so when you boil it down, it's how do you get the most out of people? Well, you treat them kindly. You empower them. And I think, and what I've found throughout my career is that when you empower the staff, they're the ones that are closest to the customer. So if you think about the typical hierarchical structure, it used to be CEOs on the top and everybody's looking up to the CEO to make those decisions. But when you envision that, that puts the folks that are closest to the customer, put their backs to the customer. And so really the philosophy, my management style is more flipped on its head. How do you support those efforts and you empower those that are closest to the customers? When you empower the people that are closest to the customers, you're able to get more information back. When we talk about empowerment, it also goes down to stressing the 4 C's: the communication, the collaboration, the community engagement, customer service. And one of the things that we talk a lot about where I'm at now is Disney, kind of a Disney approach to customer service. You want to have an environment that's clean, that's somebody feels welcomed at. You know, there's interesting things about Disney I won't bother you with, but you know, like the distance of the trash receptacles, it creates an experience. Empowerment and stress those 4 C's, but then in order to take care of the staff and really have them feel comfortable and focused on the employees, you got to take care of the 3 T's. That's the training, the tools, and the treats. Make sure they're properly trained. Make sure they have the proper tools to do the job effectively, and make sure that they're well compensated. You want to make sure that you're attracting and retaining the best and brightest. That way, you know that you are delivering the absolute best service.
Thank you. Back to Mr. Quaker.
Well,
How would you describe your leadership style and philosophy as a city manager?
well, a lot of people remember the guy by the name of Hayden Fry. Hayden, when he coached, he did not spend a lot of time coaching us as players. He spent more time dealing with the position coaches, or quite frankly, when he was coaching, he was talking to the coaches and coaching them up while the coaches were then coaching us. So my leadership style is very similar to that. I work with the department heads to get what they need to accomplish the position, the missions that they have in front of them. Obviously working with making sure our employees are happy and taken care of. But on the flip side, I want to support and empower all of my department heads to make the decisions that they need to accomplish the missions that are, again, set forth by our strategic plan and by the council. By doing so, of course, our department heads then have the ability and feel the confidence that they can make decisions, and I'm there to support them. Obviously, lifting up my department heads, teaching them and leading them to improve and provide the best leadership or provide best services that we can provide to our community is obviously the most important thing.
Thank you. Mr. Pogue Weaver.
Thank you. That's a great question. About 10 years ago, I remember having a personality profile completed, and it came back and basically said I was a supportive leader. And I think that really is head on what I am. I'm one that really wants to provide, again, those tools and information and resources to staff at all levels. And I think that's really important, that you don't want to focus just on even department heads, but it's all levels. When you have a janitor that sees an issue or a problem, they can have the best solutions. And if I try to dictate, well, you should mop the floor this way, I'm going to tell you that's going to be pretty ineffective. And so really going down to all levels, really understanding what their needs and issues are, I think really it helps you get, as a leader, get down to their level and really help them move forward as an individual. So to me, it's really supporting them, providing the resources and tools for them to succeed. Because again, by getting them to succeed, getting them the resources, that's going to help the whole organization move forward.
Thank you. Mr. Roder?
Well, I would consider myself a servant leader. I have practiced servant leadership over the last 20 plus years in city and county management. And that really entails, what can I do to serve those that I'm working with, the department heads, the staff, the city council. My focus is on really building that partnership with each level of the organization, looking for the hurdles and the roadblocks that would prevent them from being successful, taking them out of the way, turning them loose, and letting them do what they do best. And really it's coaching, mentoring, standing along beside each level of the organization, but not just the organization. We develop a culture internally of positive attitude, positive reinforcement of each other, and that bleeds into the community. That creates a positive culture in our community. Marion has a big jump start on that because the culture in this community is so positive and so strong, but it doesn't mean we can't do better. And there's still opportunity to find those pockets of opportunity to build and to listen to address as an organization. I think the other key focus of my leadership style, being a servant leader, is I hold people accountable. But in return, I create a vulnerability because I want to be held accountable by those I'm serving. I ask my department heads to hold me accountable. It's easy to chase that big issue, that big project, but at some point we have to come back and take care of the little things internally as well. And we do that as a team, holding each other accountable, having that open communication, that vulnerability between each other, knowing that we can share openly and honestly, whatever the topic is.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Roder, this next question will start with you. What have you done to promote equity and inclusion in your work as a city manager?
Well, knowing this question was coming up, and I've spent a lot of time pondering what is equity and inclusion. It's not new in our environment, but I think what I've done is really paid attention to first my own personal biases. And whether we want to admit it or not, we all have a bias. It might be from where we were raised. It might be from our training, our upbringing, our education. But let's be open and honest about our own personal biases. And once I understand that, I can better relate to other people because I check my biases at the door. But I think treating people with respect. And first and foremost, there is only one race, it's the human race. Why are we not treating each other respectfully? We don't have to agree with each other's decisions, but we have an obligation to respect human beings and each other as human beings. So what I've done is brought that respect to the workplace. I bring it to my home. I bring it to any of my social events. It's accepting people for who they are, accepting the fact that we might have a disagreement. We might not agree on a topic, but that doesn't make us bad people. And it doesn't make us right or wrong. It means we have different biases and we have different opinions. Equity and inclusion is about accepting that and being inclusive in how we treat people around us every day. It isn't a one-time event. It's not a one-time effort. It's what we live every day.
Thank you. Mr. Waller.
Thank you, Mayor. This is something that's very important to me as a leader of an organization. First and foremost, it's setting the example. And whether that's how you treat people, the communications that you send out, with the heinous events in Minneapolis, making sure that I sent a message to all staff expressing what is not tolerated in the organization and what is tolerated, and making sure that that's clear. The other thing that has been very important to me, especially on this topic, is training. I mentioned the 3 T's, and the first one is training because it's very important. We've done a series of emotional intelligence training that's to create awareness of yourself, but awareness of others and the differences of others, and how to put yourself in someone else's place and understand those and appreciate those differences. I know the 21-day equity challenge is an initiative that you, Mayor, are asking the community to participate in. That was something that I did last year for our organization. And not only did we just participate in it, we actually had conversations around it. And just one example that came out of it, one of the department heads that was hired within the last year and a half, one of the topics involved religion. And in speaking with this employee who comes from India, has a different religion, we were able to have that conversation about our holiday schedule and what does that look like and how is that fair to him? And is there something that we can do to better accommodate him and his family and their beliefs? So it's not just training, but it's also training and implementing that training and having those conversations and setting the example. We're really proud within the last month. The city of Indianola recently reestablished a Human Relations Commission that was defunct for years. And that's thanks to the leadership of the mayor and the council there. But I was the staff person that was assigned to it because it's important that it came from the top of the organization to set that example of why it's important. And this is something that we will do. Our hiring practices, how we've hired, where we've gone out to try to make sure that even though our community may not be that diverse in Central Iowa, how can we make sure that we are bringing in a diverse workforce? Because there is immigration, there's data that supports the different nationalities that are coming to the Des Moines area. And if we have a diverse and compassionate workforce, well, we're able to fulfill our obligations as public servants better.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Quaker. You need me to repeat the question or do you?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay.
In the city of Fairfield is an extremely unique community. And the reason I say that is the city has the University of Maharishi University. And in that community of the university, it represents 85 different countries that come to our community. Not only does those different 85 countries are represented in our community, we also have people that come from the East and West Coast to study transcendental meditation. So with all of that, those folks come to our community and those folks have different viewpoints and different ideas on how government should be run, how we should do different services. And the neat thing about diversity in idea and people is that it makes us stronger. Different ideas opens us up to accept and see different points of view. So the community of Fairfield is an extremely diverse place, and we really enjoy the opportunity to accept our differences. And we've actually, here in this last 2 years ago, we started an equity and diversity commission who are now working with the council and the city to work towards looking at our policies and procedures to make sure we are inclusive and equitable to everyone. I think we do a very good job, and it's extremely important discussion. I think our hiring processes are very open and very accepting of everyone. We have a pretty diverse community within our employees, and each and every one of them are important. And I'm very happy to say that we're welcoming and we enjoy having them all there.
Thank you, Mr. Poggy Weaver.
Thank you. we all have implicit bias, and I think it's difficult to always understand that. We had an incident about a year ago in Carroll that really kind of brought that to the forefront. We had a gun that was displayed next to an elementary school, and it caused a lot of concern in the community. And unfortunately, the apartment facility that occurred in, there was a lot of diversity. And in Carroll, that really brought about a lot of ugliness in our community. And we've been spending a lot of time with our law enforcement within our organization talking about that. In fact, this week, we had a lot of discussion with our law enforcement community and our county attorney, really kind of exploring that implicit bias and how can we work with these communities, but more importantly, how do we as a community really step forward, or as organizations, do we step forward to talk about it in our community? And so we're working through some of those issues right now because, again, we all have to recognize, I have implicit bias, and really recognize that those are issues that to have a community move forward as one in unison, we need to recognize that and recognize that we can be better.
Thank you. Okay, the next question, we'll start with you, Mr. Poggy Weaver. In your research of Marion and our considerable growth over the past 10 years, what do you see as maybe one or two major challenges that Marion will encounter over the next decade? And how could you direct the city to best prepare for that, for the challenges?
I think every community has their challenges. I think uniquely for Marion, I think first of all, as the community grows and frankly, as the organization grows, and I've seen this firsthand in Ankeny, really avoiding the bureaucracy that comes with an expanded organization. So remaining very laser focused, that customer service is really important and number one. We're going to need more staff to take on these issues, be it growth, policing, fire. But again, in the end of the day, it doesn't matter what part of the organization we're in. We want to provide great customer service. And I think that's going to be really important. I don't care in our organization if our parks guy is going down the road and sees a roadkill and they have the tools and the resources to take care of that. We don't need to call in another department to take care of that. Let's just take care of it and move forward. But we work as a team and as an organization. So breaking down those silos and really reminding ourselves that we're one organization. So I think that, again, that effective and efficient government is really important. I think the second issue that we really need to be laser focused on is the infrastructure. That is going to be really difficult. I think communities are facing that road construction, utility construction, those costs are going up higher and quicker than you're seeing your gallon of milk in the stores go up. And so recognize that we need to put in infrastructure that makes sense, but then we also need to, instead of just focusing on new infrastructure, but we also need to take care of our existing infrastructure. Because if we step back and don't make those investments, it's going to be a lot more expensive to catch up in the long run. So I would say those are the two things: keeping very efficient, effective government, and then that infrastructure piece.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Roeder, are there one or two challenges you foresee in the next decade, and how would you prepare the city to face them?
Well, you have three major issues that I think we're going to face in the future based on the rapid growth. First is labor. Having that quality workforce to provide the services that we've learned to expect and want from our staff. Where do they come from? And can we become more efficient, more effective, but we still have to add labor. And in some cases, it's a matter of replacing folks that have earned the right to retire. So there is some attrition to cover as well. Secondly, I agree with Mike on the infrastructure, both new and old infrastructure. It's a major priority and a major concern because we're growing quickly. How do we provide those services to our public? But I think the most significant challenge that faces Marion moving forward is losing touch with the public. We are growing so quickly and we are so focused on providing the services to that growth that sometimes we lose touch with the citizens and with the vision of our community. And that's who we serve. And I think the greatest issue or greatest opportunity that we have in front of us right now today is focusing on the community vision, focusing on what you as citizens want us to do, giving direction to the council and to the staff as to where do we go next. It's going to happen. Let's manage it. Let's work together to find the most effective solutions but it's really driven by the public.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Waller?
Thank you, Mayor. I agree with my colleagues with a slight twist. Some of the things that have attracted me to Marion is the emphasis on planning. And through the planning effort, that's where you ensure that the vision still aligns with the community's needs and wants. So, first and foremost, going through that process on a regular basis to make sure that those plans are crystal clear, are in place, have been vetted by the public, so that the implementation of those plans are being done to make sure that that vision becomes a reality. And that the vision and the ensuring the vision and implementing the vision ties into that infrastructure. And the infrastructure is important, and that's not just the sewers and water lines underneath the streets. It's the streets, the corridor project that has been done. That's a huge benefit because as you grow, you add more traffic. As you add more traffic, you add more amenities. So making sure that that network can handle that currently, but into the future, and making sure that you're taking care of that. But it's not just the hard infrastructure, it's the staff infrastructure as well. And really listening to the experts, the boots on the ground of what's happening. What are we seeing? There was a conversation earlier today. I'm not going to recite it because I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but there's change in legislation and funding streams. And because of that, that provides an opportunity to provide that better service to the community. And that's something that came out of a conversation with the staff infrastructure. And really understanding the trends, but also as part of the partnerships, understanding what's happening regionally. And so it all boils down to planning and ensuring that everybody's rowing in the same direction. But I agree with Al completely. The sense of community is going to be critical in the world of, coming out of COVID. We lost that personal interaction, and we were just talking about masks. You can't see people's faces. You can't read their reactions. Losing touch with people this last 18 months, that's been horrendous. That's been difficult to provide services, to be out in the community, build trust with the community, explain what's happening and why it's happening and why it's important for the livelihood of the communities. On our tour, we were when we were being shown Lowell Park and all the events that happened there, and the comment from our tour guide was, hey, the city does a really great job of providing these community events at no charge for the sake of creating and maintaining that sense of community. But in the age of cell phones and social media, and it's going to be more and more important to maintain and foster those personal interactions.
Thank you. Mr. Quaker?
Well, after following the three of these gentlemen, I don't have a whole lot else to add to that because they've really covered a lot of it. The infrastructure and the personnel are probably the two most important things that this community is going to have to look at as they go forward. Making sure that we provide the services to the community that they deserve. Top-notch service is the most important thing, working with the community. The infrastructure. Now, driving around, the infrastructure that this community has is fantastic, but the economic drivers behind that to maintain that infrastructure, along with the new infrastructure, example of possibly a fourth fire station, those things are going to be big things coming down the road. I know that you're very happy with your debt service levy and your overall geo debt. But as the future grows, those costs of providing for streets and buildings and all those things are going to test how you as a council, how the city plans, and as an administration, how we decide to move forward in planning for those things. So that, and then of course that goes back into your comprehensive plan, which brings in the community. The comprehensive plan, I think, was done in the early 2000s, I believe. So it's getting close to where it's time for a new one. A comprehensive plan gives us the roadmap from the community to allow us to then set a strategic plan each year to get what our goals are for each year and maybe a couple years longer. So providing the financial backing to the infrastructure, and then of course providing the financial backing with the employees to expand the employee base and to provide the services for the community is just infinitely important.
Okay, thank you. We start with you for the next question. Please describe your most challenging professional experience, or one of them, and how you navigated it and what you learned. You can think about it for a little bit. I know that's
I think I've been asked the first question, the question first more times.
well, this is our second set, so you've all had, this is your second one.
kidding.
Yeah.
We're going through a challenging situation actually right now. Our council, we have a council member that feels that something should be decided by the council, and the city administrator should not be involved in a lot of the discussion. So when I make decisions, sometimes that ruffles his feathers. So we're working through how the authority of the city manager as combined with the council. In this particular case, it was about who could cut or what type of topic should be brought up in front of the council. So my suggestion to him was, why don't you bring this topic to the council and see if the rest of the council wants to discuss it? And if they want to do that, so be it. My personal opinion was there really wasn't a lot of city business involved in the topic that this person wanted to bring to the council. It was actually, personally, I think it's more of I want to present my business in a free presentation time. So I'm working through that. Differences of opinion is fine. I think it's great to have discussions when there's a difference of opinion, but it's up to the council to set the direction, and those council members are going to, or the council in general are going to make that decision. I made a decision, and if they want to choose a different direction, that's fine. I'm okay with that. That's their prerogative, and I'm perfectly happy with that. But going forward, they just have to make that decision, and we will work through it.
Okay, thank you.
Communication in the end is the most important part of that whole topic.
Okay, so that's what you learned through it.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Mr. Poggy Weaver, describe one of your most challenging professional experiences and how you navigated it and what you learned.
I would say, first of all, city managers have challenging experiences every day. And so I think it's really sometimes hard to pick which one, but for me, it was an early on issue in Carroll. We had a financial issue that was occurring in the rec center, and really was a situation that we placed a lot of trust in a particular employee. Did not embezzle any money, so you don't have to worry about that, but really was a situation where the employee was not timely doing their job. And we spent a lot of time with this employee just saying, we felt there were some red flags. Hey, how are things going? How can we help you? How can we support you? We really should have put more emphasis on that and explored with them because they were a great employee. At the end of the day, there was an issue that occurred. We placed them on leave, went into their office and started looking for certain files, and we're opening up stuff and finding checks that are not deposited. So it wasn't a embezzlement issue. It was just an employee, unfortunately, was just overwhelmed. And so what we really learned as an organization was when there are red flags, we really got to push it harder, support our employees, put trust in them, but we really need to understand what's going on. And in fact, some of these issues were going on even prior to my tenure in Carroll. And so it really was just a long-term issue that we really had to work through. And in the end of the day, what we learned from it was we made some mistakes. And in fact, when we notified our auditors right away, and when it came to audit time, we talked about it with our auditors. In fact, they're saying, you learned a lot from it. And in the end of the day, we said, well, we want a writing, we want an audit finding on it. they weren't going to give us an audit finding. He said, we want to learn from it and realize that mistakes happen, but we all can learn from it. So I think that was probably one of the more challenging issues we dealt with.
Thank you. Mr. Roder?
Well, in the effort to be transparent with the public and with the council here, I had a very difficult situation in another community a long time ago in a state far away. But I had a mayor who had some personal ambitions, and his desire was for the city manager to help him realize those ambitions. And I spent 1.5 years committed to helping him really save him from himself. And it became apparent after 1.5 years of working with him, being committed to helping him, that wasn't going to be the case. And it came to a head in a very uncomfortable meeting one evening. And when the dust all settled, I think my takeaway was I considered the city manager to be Superman, the guy with the cape that was there to save the world or save everybody from themselves. And that isn't the case. My greatest mistake was I tried to fix the problem myself. And it was a situation that was not going to be fixed, unfortunately. But I failed to bring the council in and work together with the council early enough in that process. I think my takeaway very early in my career was this is a partnership. We work together, and not trusting the council to understand that at that point in my career was formative, because it allowed me to, while I could not correct that situation, I have never made the mistake again. I've built the partnership. It's a trusting partnership with the council and with the mayor, and it's one that's open. The communication has to be there, but also the trust with each other. And again, we might disagree on what that looks like, but it's really working together from the beginning.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Waller.
I got the button. I'm sorry. So I'm going to start succinctly the lessons or the
Describe one of your most challenging professional experiences and how you navigated it and what you learned from it.
So I'm going to start on the second part first. Communication, collaborations, patience, and empathy. And this was unique. So when I started my time in Lake County, we had 34 different divisions. One of them was Winchester House, which is or was a 150-year-old nursing home. It had been hemorrhaging money, $9 million a year, that the county was subsidizing this business. So my first day, county administrator said, Ryan, I know you don't know anything about nursing homes, but this is what we need you to do. And so what we were, the plan and what we were implementing was the privatization of a nursing home, which was viewed by some as something that the public sector shouldn't be involved in. It was taking up a lot of taxpayer dollars for something that should be self-sustaining. The health or the medical, the reimbursements for Medicaid was not sustaining. It was seeing a declining census. And while the desire was there to privatize it, there was also the part of the project was to come up with a solution. So privatize it, but also we had to replace this 150-year-old old institutional structure, which was originally going to be built. A new state-of-the-art facility was going to be built on in the center of the county campus, which had our public works facility, which is salt domes, and our central permitting facility. So it wasn't an ideal location. So you can imagine a challenge. You have a county board. There was 21 elected board members, all of them with differing opinions of what should happen and why and how quickly. And then there was an advisory board, the Winchester House Advisory Board, which was made up of members of the community, faith-based as well as industry experts. You can imagine the fear and the angst that the staff had to hear the words privatization. The members, the folks that lived there that were didn't have the means to live anywhere else, to hear that, what do you mean? I'm gonna lose my home, and the families thinking the same thing. And the process was one of, again, compassion and empathy. We explained what the problem was, and working together collaboratively, how do we navigate that and come up with a solution? It took all of 5 years that I was at Lake County. I'm proud to say that a brand new state-of-the-art facility was recently opened this past year at a much more beautiful site. It preserves the commitment that we made as an organization to our constituents that they would have a safety net. But the license and the operations and the construction of the facility was done by a private entity. And with the staff, everybody that was part of the county government was absorbed into the management company. So we had to do it in multiple phases. We had to, because of the way the state law was, it was very intricate. We had to privatize, the county still had the license. Then we had to lease it, where we transferred the license to another operator. But again, we fulfilled our commitment to making sure that those that were in need, we were fulfilling their commitment for the safety net. They had their homes. They didn't lose their homes. They had a brand new state-of-the-art facility, which had been promised to them for at least a decade on a different site. And we were able to make sure that we were being fiscally responsible with the taxpayer dollars. So we created a win-win-win-win-win situation. And we had multiple different competing interests and concerns. And again, through communication, collaboration, patience, and empathy, we were able to get it done.
Thank you. We're starting with you for the next one, so go ahead and get your.
Well, and I
drink
won't
your
touch the
water. Yeah, don't
lights
touch
with
the
you.
button there. Okay,
Runner?
yes. Okay. So Marion is the oldest town in Lynn County, founded before I was statehood. What is the role of history in Marion's future, and what's the role of the city organization with regard to the history?
It's a great question. I think when you forget your history, you're destined. Let me start over again, because that can't remember the exact saying, but history is very important. History is, it's a foundation of everything that something had to happen, which got us to this point today. And history is something that's very important to me. And just like with the Winchester House story, the history of how it was developed and why it is, and was very important in helping navigate and identifying where we needed to go. With Winchester House, it was making sure that those that were less fortunate had a place to get the quality care that they needed. And understanding that history was so vital to making sure that we had a plan moving forward that resulted in fulfilling that commitment, but it was something different. It looked different. And so that happens everywhere, and that's here too in Marion. Marion is what it is because of the history and what it was built on. And understanding that and making sure that as we're going through and looking at plans and ensuring that vision, that aspect of the history is built into it, so that you can preserve it and you can protect it and keep Marion what it is today.
Thank you. Mr. Quaker.
Well, kind of like what Ryan was saying, the history is the foundation of the community. And without our history, we essentially we're just kind of people moving around. And with the historical things that are in the community, whether it be the old library or the newer old library, because I was actually in the old library. And people have emotional attachments to those things. And when we look at changing things or want to remember history, they want that backing as to support and to remember things. The historical value for the community is extremely important, and we need to remember that when we're working on whether it be new streets or the old library. Those things need to be walked on or talked about delicately, because those are very important things to people in our communities. And as we go forward, we need to remember our history as we go forward too. So it's one of those delicate things that people need to remember, and we always need to keep in the forefront of our mind. Even though progress is great, we need to remember what we're doing with our historical stuff too. And it's neat to see the historical stuff, to be able to go to all those, to the museums and stuff. So those are very important things to maintain and to keep a mind of as we move forward.
Okay, Weaver.
Thank you. History is about the sense of place in a community, and what the values of your community are. How you look forward to the future is really rooted back into your history. We look at the Presbyterian Church, I believe now the Methodist Church before that. That facility with the derecho was impacted. I know I've heard from a couple people in the community of just how are we going to handle that building, because there's a lot of weddings that occurred there, a lot of baptisms that occurred there, and funerals that occurred there. And so there's a sense of community and place that's important to individuals. And so those are really, again, the roots of your community. And so it's difficult, but like that building, it just is a building, important landmark, important to the skyline of Marion. How are we going to move forward? Because that may not be able to be salvaged. And so that'll be a difficult question. And so we have to reinvent ourselves and understand that sometimes they're just buildings, but how do we recognize that as part of our history and moving forward? Because again, it's a sense of place. So history is very important. It's also important in the sense that as a new individual coming into a community, like all of us will face, there's also that history that's a little bit more difficult to navigate. Well, turn left at Bob's yellow house. Well, it's not even a yellow house, and Bob hasn't lived there for 20 years. And so you do have to kind of understand that history, because again, that's a big part of the community. And Bob was the mayor for 40 years. We don't know that. And so it's really one of the first things I do when I went to Carroll, for example, was go meet with a historical society. Ask them for their history books, because a lot of times you'll read those books and you'll understand kind of who are the important individuals in the community, and who you can kind of reach out and become that resource and listen to and talk to, and get a better sense, a quick sense of the community. So the history is really important, and it really will navigate how we move forward. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Roder.
Well, I think it's important to understand that we have to know where we came from before we can look to the future, or before we can identify where we're going. And if we don't pay attention to our history, to our past, we're going to relive some of those mistakes again. We also lose the lessons that we learned in the past moving forward. So the history part of it is important. The buildings are critical. They're an important piece of it, but more than the buildings, as Mike was saying, is really, the culture of our community. We can't lose that. We created a community in Marion over the last several decades, hundreds of years. And what are we doing? How do we build that? We heard today about how important the railroad was to Marion, and how you're honoring that. That's paying attention to the history. We just have to know what it is and honor that part of it, of our history that we can, as we move forward. How do we incorporate that into our planning and into our future? So I think we can't spend our whole lives looking backwards. I think somebody said that looking back is for time travelers. We're not time travelers, but we have to honor that history. We have to understand how we got to where we're at before we move forward.
Okay, so I've been asked to ask one more question. All right, we'll start with Mr. Roder. Okay. If you were to start your own business today, what would its top 5 core values be?
I think the top 5 core values of any business I would start today would match that of my city management profession. My integrity, I'm going to do what I say. I'm going to follow through with my commitments. I think it has to do with my respect for people, my focus on people, building collaboration, and making sure that those people around me are successful. Because my success is completely dependent on those people around me.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Waller.
Thank you, Mayor. Empathy, integrity, communication, collaboration, and discipline.
Okay. Mr. Quaker.
Gonna sound a little bit like a broken record, but
Okay.
from my perspective, integrity is the most important thing anybody can have in any business that you have or perform. Communicate to the nth degree, to maybe even to where it's over communication. Collaborate with anybody that could build or make your community or your business stronger. Along with integrity, honesty, be upfront, community serve, and then finally service. The most important thing to any business is the service that you provide. The most important thing, service.
Thank you. Mr. Poggy Weaver.
This is a question you don't want to be last on. I think it is trustworthy, and honesty is the cornerstone for me. That probably comes back to my Boy Scouts days. You know, you just want to be trustworthy in everything you do, and be really that straight out arrow. I think listen. I think too often we want to talk to people, but we don't stop and just listen to people. And I think that's a core value for me. But then there is communication. You need to do it regularly, often. So people have that expectation that they're going to get information, and really hit a kind of a diversity of topics. Really be collaborative in everything we do at all levels. I think just sitting down and talking with people and really working through issues is so important. That collaboration, we don't do enough of it. I think sometimes we fire off emails or letters or social media, and I just, yeah, it just, social media has really caused a lot of issues, and I think we just need to stop and collaborate and work through that. And then I think respect. Again, I think that is just so important, that we all come from different vantage points on an issue. We just need to step back and respect that we maybe have different views, different thoughts, and understand that I think everyone's coming for one goal: good community, good outcomes, and respect that we may just have differing opinions on how we get there. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to all of you. That brings us to the end of this session tonight. Thank you for participating. Thank you to everyone for being here. And I ask you now to enjoy socializing with everyone, and we'll see you in the morning.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Your Honor. Just to add on to that, we are transitioning now to the second phase of the evening. I do want to express, I think, representing my council colleagues, thanking you for the thoughtful and cogent responses to the questions this evening. So as we exit the council chambers out in the atrium, you'll find some refreshments and beverages to partake of. And our candidates will be on the second floor of the atrium at individual tables, so that over the next hour or so, please stop by, introduce yourselves, and have the conversations that you would like to have. So thank you to everybody for coming out tonight. And yes, I know a Hawkeyes game is on, but you have smart devices that can update you regarding that.
And record.